The following takes place between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Events occur in real time.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to FBC Radio Live. It is Thursday. That's right. We're inching closer and closer and closer to the start of the NFL postseason. Again, like we mentioned yesterday, it is super wild card weekend with 7 teams in each conference. We now get 3 games apiece first weekend of the postseason, which is going to be great. So we're going to get 3 AFC and 3 NFC games. And, to be honest, John, all these matchups are very, very intriguing. There's going to be years where you're going to get some of these matchups, like especially when you have that 7th team that, are just not going to be there. Kind of like those early NBA postseason 1 versus 8 matchups. Sometimes it's just a formality to get through it. The closest you're going to get to that this weekend is probably Kansas City at Pittsburgh. But even then, obviously, the intrigue with Ben Roethlisberger's impending retirement. And look, I'm like, if there's one team that I have so little faith in, but would also not be surprised if they somehow just pulled it together for one more week, it would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. So even the worst game, quote unquote, on this slate this weekend, I think has a whole ton of intrigue, and I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, because a player like T.J. Watt can ruin the party, right? I mean, if he's able to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes, that can impact the game to the point that Pittsburgh may have a chance. I don't know how Pittsburgh's going to score much. Their offense is so pedestrian. Ben Roethlisberger literally can't throw the football anymore. I think you or I could go out there and throw it around better than him. But their defense still can make things happen. Now, they met a few weeks ago, and Kansas City blew them out. There's a lot of rematches this weekend. I think 5 of the 6 games this weekend are rematches, and in the case of Arizona, Rams, Patriots, Bills, this is now the 3rd time they're playing. So these teams kind of know each other, have seen each other recently, so there's a little bit of that also. Pittsburgh, I would say Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are the 2 worst teams that made the playoffs. They're the number 7 seed, so by definition, they're the 2 worst teams. But at least Philadelphia has some sort of identity. They can really run the football. I think they have good line play offensively and defensively, and I think Jalen Hurts has done a nice job in his 2nd year. So they have somewhat of an identity, whereas Pittsburgh right now is, let's hope our defense plays well, and let's hope Ben, can pull one more out of his what.
Yeah, and that's what you're kind of hoping for, because look, this isn't the Kansas City team of 2 years ago. They are just as vulnerable as any team in the AFC. I mean, I think we all agree that this isn't a year where there's just a runaway favorite in this conference. Now, again, I don't necessarily put Pittsburgh on the same level as some of these other teams, but even New England at Buffalo, I mean, I don't think anyone's sitting here saying this is a guaranteed win for Buffalo. Now, I think they deserve to be favored, and I think there's obviously a good chance that they can come away with a win at home. But are you telling me they're a hands down favorite? Absolutely not. And good luck with Vegas, Cincinnati. I mean, Jesus, any one of those teams could win that game. Look, I mean, these are 2 teams. We're going to spend more time on the AFC tomorrow, but talking about Vegas and Cincinnati, these are 2 teams that Vegas hasn't won a playoff game since when Tom Brady only had 1 Super Bowl. And Cincinnati, you want to know how old I was the last time Cincinnati won a playoff game?
I'm going to say this because I remember that playoff game. It was 1990. They beat the then Houston Oilers.
Yeah.
They were the Houston Oilers, not even the Tennessee Titans.
Ironically.
And then they went and lost. They lost to the Raiders the next week, and that was Bo Jackson's last game in the NFL when he had that gruesome hip injury. So it was 1990.
Coincidentally, the Raiders' last playoff game also came against, this a later version of the Houston Oilers, the Tennessee Titans.
That's right. That's right.
Both of these teams have obviously, Vegas made the playoffs a few years ago without Derek Carr. Cincinnati's actually been to the playoffs more, but they're the Kings of the one and done back in the day. I think like 5 or 6 straight seasons going one and done in the wild card. So, this one of these droughts is going to end. And look, I mean, we laugh about the history, but both of these teams are pretty good. And, I don't think any of us are going to sit there and say these are Super Bowl contending teams, but both of these teams have the potential to outscore any team in the AFC. So that's going to be interesting. But before we end up talking about the entire AFC, I don't want to do that today because Mike Straw is going to join us again tomorrow. Because of course, we got Buffalo, we got New England, so we're going to save that conversation for tomorrow. Which again, you'll have to bear with us because there's 2 AFC games on Saturday. That's Vegas and Cincinnati, and then you have New England at Buffalo. And then Sunday is where you get a pair of NFC games, and then of course Kansas City, Pittsburgh at night, and then Monday night we have Los Angeles and Arizona to wrap up the weekend. So we're going to keep it in the NFC. We're going to kind of focus on that because, like I said, we already mentioned Philadelphia. This is a team, they played Tampa earlier this season. They lost 28-22. They can run the ball. Unfortunately for them, Tampa has a really good run defense when they're healthy. And it looks like they are starting to get a little bit more healthy. Guys like Shaq Barrett have come off the COVID list. They are expecting to get Levante David back for the wild card game. So this team that has overcome injuries really since the start of the season, going back to all the secondary woes that they had, is starting to kind of get healthy at the right time. Now, again, there's certain, obviously Chris Godwin's not going to come back on the offense. He's done for the year. Leonard Fournette, they expect to be back, so that's going to be a nice boost. So going into this game, this should be in my opinion, a pretty cut and dry victory for the Buccaneers. This is a game they should win as the defending Super Bowl champion at home against the Philadelphia team that, I mean, they're good at times. I don't dislike Jalen Hurts, but I think at the end of the day, this is just the talent discrepancy is very, very, very large. Let's just put it that way. And I think it starts at the quarterback position.
Absolutely. I mean, they should win this game, and they should win it comfortably. The only thing that Philadelphia has a chance with is and again, getting ahead of Tampa Bay is no big deal for the Buccaneers because who's pretty good at coming from behind in the postseason. So I think what Philadelphia has to do is obviously run the football. And now I sound like Rex Ryan and all the other analysts, Bill Cowher and Dave Wanstead, who that's all they ever start their first statement is, you got to run the football and play good defense. Well, in the playoffs, you need the quarterback. But it's very difficult to run against Tampa Bay, but recently, and again, this could be because of injuries, you can run on the edges against them a little bit. And I thought you could last year. Even Kansas City did in the Super Bowl, and Green Bay did at times in the NFC Championship game, and then they abandoned it. You can't run up the middle against Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh. That's just don't even bother. But on the edges, you can kind of do some things, and maybe that's what Philadelphia is going to try to do. But look, you've got Tom Brady, 45 playoff games he's played. He's played essentially 3 full seasons of playoff games, which is just nutty to me. And then you've got, Jalen Hurts making his first appearance. And I do like Jalen Hurts. I think he's got all the intangibles. Seems to be a really good leader, not a great thrower of the football, but improving. I think he's getting better. But yeah, Tampa Bay should be in total control for this game. It's the perfect 1 o'clock Sunday slot that Brady likes, right?
Yeah.
Because he likes that early afternoon game. I told guys that's what we like.
Well, I mean, I don't think he necessarily he likes those late night playoff games too, because that implies that
you mean 6:40?
Yeah,
6:40 on the first Sunday or second Sunday in February. Yeah, he's only been to 10 of those.
Yeah, he likes that. He's used to that.
He likes that too.
He's working on that full season worth of Super Bowl games, which would have sounded absurd years ago. But now it's
that's incredible. No, really.
I mean, it's still.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it'd be tough. It would be tough to get that, but I'd settle with 11 or 12 playoff games. Or
could he do it? Could he do it in a different conference, Ian? Did he have to go to the NFC and? Because Green Bay to me would have went last year if Brady's not around, and they would go again this year.
According to some, Brady still has a lot to prove, so maybe they have to create a whole new conference for him to go to.
That?
So,
I'd love to meet that person. And Rodgers is my guy. I mean, that's not the biggest secret on the show. But whoever says that Brady has more to prove, I'd like to five. It'd be like Bill Russell retired. You know, he's still got more to prove. Those 11 championships in 13 years just aren't enough.
Aaron Rodgers isn't the first legacy that Tom Brady has killed. Okay, let's. I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers did enough of that himself early on in some poor NFC Championship game performances. But let's face it. Think about how many. Think about this, John. Pittsburgh from 2000 to what? 2008, 2009, every year, number one,
they were right there.
And number two, defensively, both yards and points per. We're not just talking about points per game, where everyone flocks to when it comes to Brady. Oh, look, he has all these top 10 points per game. I don't give a flying F about points per game, especially when every other defensive metric says they're middle of the pack at best. Pittsburgh was the defense that everyone thinks Tom Brady had for every single season of his career. They were literally the elite of the elite defense, and they had some really good offenses. Think about how many more Super Bowls. They won 2. Think about how many more Super Bowls they should have won if it weren't for Brady.
Oh, sure.
Think about the Colts. Think about
the Colts as well, too.
Think about Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. Think about Kansas City. I mean, good God. I mean, the only Tom Brady has
Patrick Mahomes could be working on his 4th consecutive Super Bowl if not Tom Brady, right? I mean, they lose. I mean, and I'm a bigger Mahomes fan than you are, but I mean, I think you admit he's a hell of a quarterback. But yeah, he could be looking at his 4th consecutive Super Bowl. His only 2 playoff losses come against Tom Brady. He's starting to get into the same range that Bill Russell did. And I know I'm an old guy, and I bring up Bill Russell all the time because he's the greatest winner in American team sports history, and quite frankly, Brady's right next to him. So, but no one won championships. Like Elgin Baylor never won a championship. Jerry West had to win a championship after Russell retired. Will Chamberlain only won 1 while Russell was playing. Like he just kind of like blocked everybody, and that's what Brady's done. I mean, but they have had a little success. And give my guy Rodgers credit. He did beat a very good Pittsburgh team in his 1 Super Bowl appearance and win.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I
had to get that in there.
No, of course.
He was good.
Of course. Yeah, he was pretty good.
Were you rooting for him in that game?
I was.
You probably were.
No,
because you hate Pittsburgh. Yeah.
I hate Pittsburgh. And at the time,
you hate Pittsburgh.
Well, I was like, look, I mean, at that time, I was a little naive, John. Okay, I didn't actually think. See, this was the infancy of this overreaction, over the top, like anointment era of sports commentary. Because Twitter was obviously a couple years old, and social media, that type of thing, was really starting to boom, and all of a sudden, it's Aaron Rodgers up there with the championship belt, and it's like, oh my God, this guy is on pace to be the greatest. Now, at the time, at least. Brady only had 3 Super Bowls, okay?
Right, exactly,
It seems like and again, 3 Super Bowls and only 4 appearances, which seems like an absolute absurd notion. But since then, 6 appearances, 4 more wins. So,
right.
Again, it was absurd at the time to even suggest, because like I would even reckon to say, like, even I, as crazy as it sounds, even I would probably even say, look, I love Tom Brady, but it's hard to already put him over guys like Joe Montana. At that time, 2010, mind you.
I was with you because he'd had 3, and Montana had 4.
I understand the case, and I think a lot of it had to do with, obviously, that 2007 season and how spectacular it was. But, the reality of it was, and then, of course, 2010, that year, he won the unanimous MVP. So there was some validity to it. And, like, even the suggestion that Aaron Rodgers could be on pace was far more appropriate, even though I still think it was a little absurd and a little premature at the time.
Well, he was trending at that moment, though, because he did win the Super Bowl in 2010. MVP in 2011, one of the 5 greatest seasons quarterbacks ever had. Like, Brady's had 2 of them, Peyton Manning's had 2 of them, and Rodgers had 1. Those are like the 5, best quarterback seasons we've seen. But it was kind of trending in that direction. And that's why 2014 was enormous, right? It was enormous for 3 people. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and the Seattle Seahawks. We can call it Russell Wilson if you want. Those 3 teams were separated by a hair, right? I mean, the Patriots over Seattle, Seattle over Green Bay. Like, they were the 3 best teams in football. And I think if you'd had a round-robin tournament, it would have went on for a while. They were pretty close, those 3 teams. But that's when Brady winning that fourth Super Bowl in that fashion, scoring 2 touchdowns against that defense, down 10 points in the fourth quarter. At that point, I said, it's over. He's better than Montana because they each have 4 Super Bowls. And, oh, by the way, Brady went to 2 more Super Bowls. And I know he lost, but 2 losses in the Super Bowl are better than losses in the divisional round. That's just the way it is. And so at that point, I think he kind of like that. And at that point, he's just been like, destroying any narrative with just Super Bowl after Super Bowl. And, oh, by the way, the one he lost, he threw for 505 yards. So, it's anybody that pushes back, I don't know what the guy has left to prove. He could go out Sunday, play left-handed, throw 7 interceptions, and it would not impact his legacy one bit.
Well, to that, to the 2014 point, because at certain times I heard Aaron Rodgers has gone 10 years without. So, there's a lot of differences. It's not just about,
of course.
Yeah. And, obviously to your point, even during that drought, they went to 2, including that 2007, which again, losing, I think that carries a lot more weight than just, going on a nice run and losing a Super. You know what I mean? That obviously carries a little bit.
Like
more
11 would have been a surprise. They weren't a great team at 11. They had the 31st ranked defense. Right. Yeah. So them getting the Super Bowl was a mild surprise in 2011, to be quite honest with you. I know they beat Denver in the divisional round, but then they beat a really good Baltimore team in the AFC Championship game. And the Giants were on a roll at that point, right?
They had a really strong end of the season and
tremendous defense.
They weren't as good as they were in 2007 either. So, but I think both those teams overachieved. Obviously, that 2011 team was a Brady offensive juggernaut team that just had to just kick and drag a defense that had Julian Edelman playing defensive back at one point. You know what I mean? That's how thin and bare that
Earth Wind Moreland was in the secondary. It was just it was seriously. We've said this a million times. 2011. If anybody disputes the greatness of Brady and Rodgers, and then I'm not putting Rodgers with Brady, but those 2 teams, Green Bay went 15-1 with the 32nd ranked defense, and I'm talking about yards, and the Patriots went 13-3 with the 31st ranked defense.
Yards is the actual official metric used by the NFL to rank. So, anyone, the only reason points per game, and this is what I always laugh at, because it's it's very obvious why anyone who tries to downplay what Brady has done, they only use points per game. Well, why?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because that's the only defensive metric that supports anything that they're trying to say. And if your argument includes picking one metric and completely ignoring everything else, well, it's a bad argument. You sit there and say, Brady's had 16 top 10. No, he has not. First of all, John, it's guaranteed at least 9 of the top 10 defenses every single season for the history of football will not win a Super Bowl. So the idea that a top 10 defense.
Oh, by deduction, you're exactly right. Yeah. And the other thing too is here's another thing. And again, we're just blowing smoke up our 2 quarterbacks, what's here. But I think that both Brady and Rodgers' defenses have given up. Their ranking defensively in terms of yards is worse than it is points, because those 2 guys take care of the football, right? And they play good. Well, Brady plays situational football better than anyone in the history of the sport.
If you have an elite offense in this league, then generally your points per game are going to be low, because if you have an elite offense, that means you're not giving extra possessions to the opposing team.
Exactly.
You're controlling the ball, you're controlling the clock.
Yep.
And it's people wonder, they ask why solely points per game is not a great metric. Well, that's the reason. For example, this season, the Bucks finished 5th in points per game. The Packers 14th.
Mm-hmm.
It essentially, and this is the other reason why, and people only use the rankings and not actually put context with numbers. The reason why is because that difference in rank seems so astronomical and is enough to say, oh, Brady's being carried by his defense, when it amounts to 1 point a game difference.
Right, that close.
So so that's what I'm saying. Using just points per game is such a crazy notion, when especially now, if you have an elite offense, your defense generally is not going to give up a lot of points, because they're just not going to have the opportunity to do so.
And then you're not turning the ball over, not putting your defense in harm's way, and that's what these 2 guys do better than anyone.
But on the flip side, though, your defense can still have a negative impact, because even if they're not giving up a lot of points, and generally that's by virtue of not having to be on the field that often. And generally teams, even bad teams, are good in the red zone because, well, it gets harder and harder to play offense or defense, or yeah, it gets harder to play offense in the red zone because the field shrinks. So at least even a mediocre defense can overachieve in the red zone. And that's what the Patriots did for a lot of years, kind of post 2010, that era where it was like, okay, this team was good at not giving up points in the red zone, but they couldn't get off the field. They would allow long drives, long third down conversions, this, that, and the other. And people are sitting there screaming, saying that's an elite defense. I'm like, how is that an elite defense? I don't care if they had the 5th point per game. It's like, but if they're a team that couldn't get off the field, you're negatively impacting the pay. I mean, look, and I'll give you a second. I'll give you
sure. No, because I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with you.
Well, go back to I believe it was that Washington, and then I'm shifting to the Bucks because there's a lot of similarities between the two. The Bucks can be very elite on defense some games, but then they look like those versions of the Patriots and others. And you go back to that Washington game, okay? Not many points given up. Tom Brady, it wasn't his best game, but he was really good against a team that was at the time playing pretty well.
Good defense. They have a good defense.
They were still a good defense, and I'm not going to prop them up too much, but brings the ball down, takes the lead or is right behind, whatever, and then the Bucks allow an 11-minute drive to end the game. That's the type of negative defensive impact that giving up yards can have on a offense. Now, not every game are you giving up an 11-minute drive, but it doesn't have to be an 11-minute drive. All it has to do is be 6-7 minutes, couple conversions on third down. All of a sudden, and then maybe they go down and kick the field goal, but maybe it's the time's the factor, not necessarily a point. So yeah, both those quarterbacks are always going to have defenses that are pretty good points per game. You can't just make a statement on a defense based on their actual ranking. You have to actually take into account the points because, also I think from the time both of these players are in the league, their points per game amounts to the difference is less than a field goal, over their entire career. But if you were to talk to a quote unquote casual, as they say, you would think that Tom Brady had such more of an advantage defensively and Aaron Rodgers was just saddled with these terrible defenses. And it's just like, no, guys, come on, it's not that hard to figure out this information. Both of these guys' teams are going to be great on both sides of the ball, especially points per game defensively, because they're both efficient and take care of the ball and they score a lot of points.
Exactly. So, that was like the second Super Bowl loss against the Giants. I was on an island. I was like, oh, the Patriots only gave up 21 points ago, but their defense was terrible that day because the Giants constantly had, and you could tell right away how a game is going to go, that it's just going to be like a low scoring, physical, playing a phone booth type of game, kind of like the Rams Patriots Super Bowl 13-3. You knew points were going to be at a premium. So in that Giants Super Bowl, the Patriots defense couldn't get off the field. Every drive for the Giants, maybe it didn't even result in points, but it was 8 plays, 47 yards, punt, give the Patriots. The Patriots' average starting position in that game was their own 11-yard line. So that's on your defense. You can't even really blame the special teams. I mean, what are you supposed to do if the Giants are punting from their own 45 and they pin you at the 11? So now he's got to go 89 yards. So that's not good complementary football, which the Patriots are usually really good at. But you're right, that stretch that they went 9 years without a Super Bowl, which it still kind of blows my mind that they won 6 Super Bowls still. That doesn't even make sense. But more of that was because the defense was not up to par, because the offense was up to par for most of those years. So, yeah, I mean, that's what makes these two guys great. And it made Peyton Manning great, too, right? I think he always got his defenses to perform better because he was so good. Sure. Peyton Manning was always famous as sometimes this drive is going a little haywire. Hey, if we kick a field goal here, that's good. We got points. We didn't turn it over. Yeah, those are the 3 best quarterbacks of the last 20 years.
Maybe Brandon Staley should talk to Peyton Manning then.
Oh man! I'd love to. I wish there was a Manning. I wish there was a Manning cast that night because Peyton. And again, I like analytics. I like looking at it and doing certain things like that. But Jesus, I mean, you can't just do it every time like you're playing Madden. But anyway, I knew we figured we talk about our two boys. But as far as the Philadelphia-Tampa game, Tampa should roll. Again, I think Philly might be able to run the football a little bit, but what the hell is that going to do? Is that going to lead to field goals? And it's okay. Here comes number 12 charging down the field. And I swear he's going to look at the Philadelphia helmet and go nuts because they beat him in a Super Bowl. I mean,
I was going to say that.
Other guy's kind of wired.
Yeah, that hasn't been mentioned much, but this is his first playoff crack at them since. So don't think
different cast of characters, but yeah.
I've been watching. Man in the arena. I almost said man in the mirror.
Of course you were. Of course you. Yes, that's the Michael Jackson song.
Yeah,
it's a great song. Oh man, that's a fantastic song.
But don't worry. Tom remembers. But anyways, so we got about 8 minutes left. So let's real quick. We're gonna go through these next couple games. Obviously, this one is a little bit of a throwback, John. I feel like you're getting right back to the mid '90s here. Okay, San Francisco at Dallas. This was the Super Bowl every year in the NFC. If these two teams met, this was essentially the Super Bowl. This is a tough game for me to try to figure out. Like I want to give Dallas the edge because they're at home. I do think Dak is a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. But this San Francisco team is capable, I think, of playing better team football than Dallas. Like, I think they are a more balanced team. And this isn't a massive advantage for Dak in the quarterback spot. Because, like, I knock Jimmy G, and I kind of use him as an example as to why EPA per play isn't, like, the most, incredible determinant of what a quarterback is, because for much of the season, he was ranked as the third best quarterback. And I don't think anyone in their right mind is sitting here saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is the third best quarterback in the league or at the third best season. But he is still a pretty good quarterback because you know what? When he's on the field, they have a really good chance to win. And he has limitations, absolutely. But it's really going to come down to is he going to be able to control the football? And by that, I mean, don't give away a turnover to Trayvon Diggs. Okay. Like I like it's entertaining, but like anyone who sits there, and I've seen so many people ignore, like, who cares if he gives up so many yards? Well, again, he's like the Chris Davis of the NFL. He hits 210, strikes out 150 times, but guess what? He's going to hit 40 home runs for you.
Right.
And that's it, though. It's either home run or bust. And in this case, he's either picking off a ball or he's playing terrible coverage, allowing the other team to get. He gave up over 1,000 yards this season.
That's incredible.
That is absurd. If any other defensive back that didn't have as many turnovers as he did that, they'd be on the bench. Or they'd be playing for the Patriots in 2011. One of the two.
That's true. Yeah, I'm sure they had a few cornerbacks give up 1,000 yards that year. And the thing about Trayvon Diggs, and I like him. I remember watching Hard Knocks. Seems like a great kid. He's got the most adorable kid I've ever seen. He's like 4 or 5 years old. The kid is just. I want to adopt him. But I'm surprised because he went to Alabama. Like the Alabama guys tend to be so well schooled and well coached that actually, I think. Coaching level in the NFL is less than at Alabama. But he seems to play, he takes a lot of chances and maybe he'll get that out of it. But you could see Jimmy G throwing a pick to Trayvon Diggs. And even as big a fear for me, if I'm a 49ers fan, which I'm not, is him going back to pass and here comes Micah Parsons with a strip sack fumble and he recovers it. Or, someone picks it up and runs it back for a scoop score, which, obviously could turn the game. The thing about this game that's so weird, 95% of the people I've talked to love San Francisco in this game because they looked impressive coming back against the Rams and everyone expects Dallas to falter and Mike McCarthy's a buffoon and all of that stuff. I still think Dallas is going to win. They're at home. And I'm going to give you one quick theory, and I know we're talking about the AFC tomorrow. 3 teams needed to win to get in. In Pittsburgh's case, they had to win and hope for a miracle, which they got with Jacksonville beating Indianapolis. All 3 of the teams that needed a win to get in, the Raiders, the Steelers, and the 49ers, all went to overtime. Real emotional games against divisional rivals. I don't know what they're going to have left the next week. So I think Dallas is going to win this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dallas too, just because I think ultimately at the end of the day, I am going to edge with the home team. And I do like Dak. I'm not as big on Dak as some. I think his praise has kind of leveled out a little bit. I think it's become a little bit more appropriate for what he is. But I like him in this situation. I like him at home, and I think they'll be able to do enough on offense. Now, I don't have much faith in them beyond this round, because I'm not convinced that Dallas is, for many reasons, they're a team that's ready to go on a run. And I could be wrong. I mean, they have a great offense, but I don't know. I think it's a little too inconsistent. Like they kind of shot up these offensive ranks pretty late this season. So like they're capable of having some offensive stinkers, and I don't think their defense is necessarily a great unit. So I think they're good. I just don't. I like they're. I mean, they're very strong defensively in the secondary. I mean that's their thing. They're very good in the secondary. Run defense, not so much. So
and they can rush the passer. With four.
Yeah.
So they can do that. So their pass defense is good, but San Francisco's more run centric.
Yeah.
The other thing too about Dallas, and they're 6-0 in that division, which is not a really good division. They're 6-5 outside the division. That's a problem. Mike McCarthy is going to screw up the clock or a challenge or timeouts or do something that you're going to scratch your head at. But I don't want to, as a Packers guy, I don't want to see San Francisco win, because if San Francisco wins, they would go into Lambeau in the divisional round, unless Philadelphia upsets Tampa, which is not going to happen. But I would rather my Packers play either the Rams or the Cardinals than the 49ers, because the Rams or the Cardinals going to Lambeau, I don't think have a chance. San Francisco going to Lambeau, since they're a physical team, they can run the football. Rodgers is 0-3 against San Francisco in the playoffs. I'd be a little nervous about that game. So I will be rooting for America's team.
Yes. I know you will, John. Last game.
Selfishly. And I'll be rooting for Philadelphia as well, obviously, because I want my guy to win his second Super Bowl. There's that some number 12 down there in Tampa that's in the way.
Yeah, he's been in the way for a lot of people. Rodgers isn't the only one, so he's stood in the way for a few.
Well, you like that tweet I sent out yesterday. I think we've talked about this before. He's faced that season's MVP 9 times in the postseason. He's 8-1.
That's absurd. Yeah, that's
absurd. That might be the craziest of all the stats. I know what's he 26-14 when he throws over 50 passes, which that doesn't make any.
22
and 10. I cut him short a little bit. I know, how the hell can I not know that number? 22. That's absurd. 22-10. If that was your career average, it is like better than Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers' career average. And he's done that and get. No, I mean we could sit here till next Tuesday and go through all those. But that may be my favorite one. And he did it in 1 year. It was 2 guys, right? Because he beat McNair in the divisional round and Peyton in the AFC Championship game. And they were the co-MVPs that year. It's like that the only guy he's lost to was in 13 when Manning beat him in the AFC Championship game. That team was not capable. Denver was better that year. Again, you have a look with Peyton and Brady when they met in the playoffs. The home team always won, and the team with the better defense always won. So that's a lot.
I miss those. But anyway, so our last game, Arizona Rams, 2 teams that. I mean,
could this end in a tie?
Yeah, exactly. Can this just end in a tie? And then I don't know. Like I've been very disappointed how the Cardinals have played over the last 2-3 months of the season. Starts with Kyler Murray and everything else. But I'm going to go with the Cardinals, because you know what keeps coming back to me? And it's something I tweeted back in November. Matt Stafford is going to throw a bone back-breaking interception at some point in this game, and maybe twice. And it's going to lose the Rams this game. And I can't, when I'm thinking about this game, I cannot get past that. It keeps going, because I keep thinking, all right, the Rams, they're playing pretty good football right now. They got Aaron Donald. They got all this offensive firepower. They're getting Cam Akers back. And I'm pretty sure they just, for some reason, signed Eric, the safety, Eric Waddle.
I thought I was reading The Onion when I heard that.
No, I did too. And then I was like, he really has been retired since 2019. Look, they still have plenty of talent. They have a great team when they show up. But at the end of the day, I can't get over the fact that I think Matt Stafford's going to throw maybe multiple picks, but there's going to be one that's just going to be so backbreaking for this team that they're not going to be able to recover. So I'm going to take the Cardinals.
He's thrown 17 interceptions this year, and that's an offense that is so quarterback friendly, right? You know, with a lot of the boots, and you got a good running game. And look, I mean, he's played better than Jared Goff, but not that much better than Jared Goff. Let's not forget, Jared Goff in 2018 was an MVP candidate when the Rams got to the Super Bowl.
Identical numbers. 2021 Stafford and 2018 Goff literally ended with a lot of the same numbers, which again, it kind of. Well, you know, I've asked the question too. It's like, okay, I'm waiting to see the Matt Stafford, you know, out of Detroit, because so far I'm seeing the same Matt Stafford. I mean, incredibly talented, has an arm that can make just about any throw you want. He just doesn't do it consistently, and some of the throws you don't want to make, he makes. And by that I mean, again, dumb interceptions to, you know, the opposing team. Like when Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers throw interceptions, it's usually through a great effort of the defensive backs or the defense, and just playing really good defense. Like with Matt Stafford, that's not the case, and the same with, you know, other lower tier quarterbacks. So, yeah, it's just it's like I said, I think the Rams are the better team. I think that the Cardinals aren't playing well enough, but I can't get over the fact that I think Stafford's going to throw a terrible interception and it's going to cost them.
Yeah. The only thing is Arizona's 8-1 on the road this year, which is crazy, right? So, again, this is the Monday night game, so the winner is going to be at a disadvantage the following week. I'm going to go with the Rams only because I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, but I think this is as far as they'll go. Whoever wins this game.
You only have one of your Super Bowl picks left.
So. Yeah, I know. Isn't that amazing? How do you pick a Super Bowl team that doesn't make the playoffs? I think they finished. Cleveland finished in last place in their division. That's pretty good. That's pretty. That's an accomplishment for me. Pick a Super Bowl winner that finishes in last place, and not a real great division either, right? A division that's really like, you know, very much mediocre.
People think it's great because all the teams are mediocre. That's the biggest misconception of football. It's like people, the NFC East is so great because all the teams are like 8-8 and 9. No, they're greatly mediocre. You know what I mean?
Right. The NFC West is the best division, I think. Right, we can agree on that because you've got the Rams, you've got Arizona, San Francisco is a dangerous team, and look, even Seattle ended up. I mean, 7-10 is nothing great, but I mean, you could kind of make a case that Seattle's the best last place team in football, or whatever the hell that means. But because the quarterback is still really good, this Arizona Rams game though will be the best looking head coach matchup in NFL playoff history. I must say that Sean McVay and Cliff Kingsbury will be styling on the sidelines, so you know that's going to be good to see.
Yeah, we're gonna get you your own segment every week where it's just talk about the looks of the head coaches and
those guys are good looking dudes. Yeah, the whole NFC West. You got Kyle Shanahan's good looking dude. Pete Carroll's the oldest coach. He's the father of the three sons. That's what it reminds me of. It's the GQ division.
Yeah, GQ division. That's right. All flash, no substance.
Hey, give us Bruce Arians and Mike McCarthy.
Hey, wake me up when they've won something, okay? I couldn't care less about the Flash. Give me the car that's going to run well and not the one that looks good and made out of tin. So,
give us Andy Reid and Bruce Arians. Yeah. Bill Belichick snorting and startling and all these miserable old guys.
Exactly. But all right, folks, we will be back tomorrow. We're going to break down the AFC. Like I said, our good buddy Mike Straw is going to be here. And I'm probably not going to wear the Spider-Man mask yesterday because I almost suffocated in that thing for 30 minutes. But we will be talking about the AFC, breaking down all the three matchups, 2 of them coming on Saturday. That's going to be pretty fun. So stay tuned, and we will talk to you then. Have a